Hey guys, Sam here, welcome back to the channel. I'm pleased to report that this is the last day of water fasting. So I'm here in the garrison of Gaines, the muscle mecca that is Bodyworks Tottenham. So coming up today, we've got a little bit of an explanation about autophagy. It's a word that I've mentioned a number of times in relation to this fasting business and the benefits. So I want to run through all of that first and give you a brief overview of the understandings and processes there for the science guys out there, I guess. Then move on to a quick workout, whatever I can manage here. Whole body stuff, nothing too strenuous. And then it will be showing you how I look like after 3 days carnivore, 4 days water fasting for this extreme reset week I've been doing. And possibly, if there's time, I'll have the meal of breaking the fast. Now I am due to break this fast and will have managed 4 full days by the time we get to 8:30 tonight. So that is only 7.5 hours away at the time of recording this little bit here. So pretty excited for that, to be honest, although I've got so used to this and I have had that experience of it getting easier from day 3 onwards that I do feel like I could do another few days. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stick with the original plan because it's very little researched, to be honest, the exact amount of muscle loss that can occur and when. It's a hard thing to find the test subjects for and test realistically, but the general consensus is that the more days you do it, the more risk of muscle loss there is. Now I wasn't worried about a bit because regaining it is going to be simple. I don't feel like I've lost too much. I've lost the weight and from the water weight and a little bit of fat there mostly, and you'll see how I'm looking later. But I don't want to push it. I don't want to push it and risk it in terms of days and days on end of this fasting, but just to mention that I'm feeling really well and I could do more. Now, what the health benefits are around this, I was looking mainly for, I was mainly looking for a complete reset here and, a refresh of sorts. Clear out all of the cellular debris, that kind of thing, which is what this is all about, and improve metabolic function, which is what this is all about, which I expect to assist me and see the benefit of that when I get to properly pushing for gaining again. So the word autophagy comes from the Greek word for self and eating. So the Greek word for self is auto, and if I remember rightly, the phagy bit, phagy, however you pronounce it, that means eating in Greek. So it means self-eating. It's not that. It's basically your body feeding off the waste products and its own self. But what happens in this process is cells clean out the damaged components and recycle materials. It's actually been known about since back in the 1960s, but a lot of research took place in the 1990s by Yoshinori Asumi, and he got the Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine in 2016 for his work. So what he'd done is basically produce all of this work on showing how yeast cells break down and recycle cellular debris, and how similar processes can occur in human cells. So what we know so far about how this works is that damaged and useless components get bundled up in a membrane called an autophagosome, and that fuses with enzymes that can break down the trash contents basically, and that membrane fuses with an enzyme that's called the lysosome, and energy levels in cells drop when you get into fasting. So this is how fasting triggers it. The energy levels in the cells drop, and that activates AMPK kinase and the mTOR, which it inhibits it activates AMPK kinase and inhibits mTOR. And mTOR would promote cell growth and proliferation, but that's inhibited, and that's how fasting kickstarts this process where the damaged and useless components of cells get bundled up into that autophagosome, which can then fuse with the lysosome and break them down. So that's a brief overview of the science behind it and how it works, and the benefits of this are understood to be longevity. It's believed that you can reduce the aging process by doing a bit of fasting here and there, or from the process autophagy being increased here and there, good for disease prevention and also improved metabolic health. Now it's not really practiced that much in bodybuilding, because in bodybuilding we're all afraid of getting smaller, but I do understand that these things have to be done cyclically and focus on different things at different times to make overall progress. And the place that I see for this tool in the toolbox in the method and in the yearly strategy is for basically what they call like a health phase, or kind of what I'm doing at the moment, but an extreme tool to use in that context would be basically improving metabolic health and improving the function of all of my organs, because they're all made up of these cells which are going to be cleared out of all the cellular debris and useless components from this process of autophagy. Fasting is the quickest and most simple way of kick-starting a much greater amount of that process occurring. So what I'm expecting from this 4-day blast is that in future, when I do the blood tests, I'll be expecting good readings. So I'm looking at my organ health, I'm expecting my digestive system to all work better, and with everything in the body working better, I'm expecting to assimilate and use all of the food much more efficiently and appropriately once I get back into really pushing forwards with the food and trying to grow again, which would be probably early June, but we'll see how things go. Don't have any problems at the moment. There's no problems to report. It was an extreme bulking program, as you know. I did get up to 300 pounds, as you know. And for me, it's like better. It's better to stop and reset and check and do all those sorts of things like before there's any problem. Because, it's the old adage of an ounce of prevention is better than like a ton of cure, or however they put it, what units you're working with. So that's why I'm doing it. And I haven't heard many people bodybuilding talk about fasting very often. I've only heard of it really among the competition circuit as a last-ditch, like extreme method for fat loss when in a contest prep and needing to catch up, just stopping eating, which would certainly have its place, would certainly work. But as a broader batch of benefits from a method, I haven't heard about it talked so often. I think the only other person that I've heard mention it would be perhaps like Vigorous Steve. Talks about fasting, and he talks about he wouldn't coach people previously unless they could do a fast for a certain amount of time, because he was putting a test on their discipline and didn't want to deal with trainees that lack discipline, so he'd set them that challenge, and if they could meet that challenge then he'd coach them. Now, I wouldn't be so extreme myself. Like I have an approach to coaching that's a little bit different to that, where I sort of pride myself on someone not needing to go hungry to get all the way to stage condition if necessary. And so I don't really need to see that someone's capable of fasting specifically, but I do have to have like good engagement and honest communication there to deal with whatever the problems are with adherence if they come up. So for me, it's not about it's not primarily about like building discipline. For me personally, I don't struggle with that. I've thought about food like here and there over the last 4 days, but if I set a goal and there's a reason behind it and nothing's going wrong, I'll stick to it. So I've stuck to it. I could manage longer. I'm very much looking forward to tonight and getting some food on. But has it really built my discipline? Not for me personally. I don't struggle with that side of things, because I love all of this. I love experimenting with myself, and I hope to kind of pioneer something here where if I feel and observe that my gains are way better than when resuming a growing phase previously, and I feel like I can attribute it to this, then it would be a tool I would use frequently in my yearly planning of stages, and experiment with more, maybe do longer fasts, shorter fasts, maybe even consider 1 day or 2 days within the actual bulking program itself. All sorts of options. So I'm always experimenting with myself. I don't want to churn out the same old kind of thing, as much as there are things that I rely on a lot, because I've found them to be very successful and useful. Always trying to bring something else in here as well. So this is what I'm doing with myself. Like before, I would go so far as to say, oh, it's definitely a good idea. I'm not at that point yet. I think I could be at that point by August this year, perhaps, depending on how progress is going and whether I can can't feel like I can attribute it to what's been going on this week. So, you know, stay tuned for whether this is the best strategy, but I'm finding out on myself. I'm really looking forward to getting back into the swing of things come June. But this has been a really interesting experience, and you're going to see later what I'm looking like. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to get warmed up, and we'll look at a quick full body workout. Nothing too strenuous after my pain in that treatment yesterday. I feel like it's best not to stretch anything too much, but I'm very eager to see how I'm doing on pull-ups, so we start with that. Right, 4 days of no eating and still very obese. Let's see what I can make with pull-ups now. What was that, 11 and a half or something? Now that's the effect of the weight loss that's occurred, because it's been at least 20 pounds since hitting the 300, so that's significant. It gives me a nice estimation of what I'll be doing on weighted pull-ups when I get into cutting much further down later on. But I can do one more set on here for sure. And here we go again. No. Oh. Hey man, you alright? Oh. See people I know all over the place now. But that was a lot less reps. I tried my hardest on that first set there, but really low energy right now. So I'm just going to do probably one exercise for each main muscle group. And we'll see what I'm looking like for the end of the day. Get that meal in. I feel like it's kind of appropriate that the day I get to eat again, I'm wearing the Devourment cap there. That's a band, by the way, not this sort of music. Next one, chest. Once again, I'm taking the opportunity to try equipment I wouldn't normally use, because I'm not pushing to failure and like training as such properly. I'm just making sure to get exercise in this state, and that's a good opportunity to combine investigating new pieces of equipment in. So I haven't used this plate loaded shoulder press before. Already it feels like a bit narrow for my build, but I'm going to try it light and see how it feels. Yeah, that's a little bit narrow, so I think compared to the Viking press that I used the other day, this is not going to be my choice going forwards. But since I've started on it, I'll do another set. Probably doesn't need too much rest or another camera angle. We'll take a walk through, we'll take the bro's eye view in a little bit to give you a little lookie at this gym. It's possibly my absolute favourite. Anyway, get this over and done with. It's not the one for me. Yeah, so the bro's eye view again as we walk through to find something else. Now, that is chest, back and shoulders covered, but as I've done rows before on these whole body workouts, and that would have used my biceps more than how they're really taken out of the exercise significantly in a wide pull-up. I feel like this time round I could do something isolating the arms, the biceps, so all that kind of gear is this way. I can sort of look at if they've got anything I haven't seen before, anything that's escaped my notice. But I have my favourites, and it's mostly stuff with dumbbells. But as this is not full-on training, it's the opportunity to try a different piece just in case it feels like it's going to be. And here we are. I think this arm curl, I don't get on too well with the build of these hammer strength preacher curl machines, but the Life Fitness, I think this is the same as the one that I used in Legends, or very similar. The one in Legends might have been Cybex, but I'm going to try this. And while we're at it, I may as well describe my procedure for trying a new piece of equipment like a machine. So what I do is basically select a tiny weight just while I get set up with the seat height and the angle of it, and then I put on something conservative for the actual first set if it's a new piece I'm just trying. So already what you want on the machine is your elbow in line with the fulcrum of the mechanism, and then you should be getting resistance all the way through the movement. So it's this piece here, that's what it's all moving around, so my elbow needs to be in line for this, the moving joint of the exercise. That feels okay. I feel like I could go one spot lower on the seat, might be even better. So I test that with my baby weight there. Yeah, that's even better. I can get my elbow in place and still be sort of locked in. It could do with a bigger pad to rest on, but if I keep my body upright, I feel like I'm not slipping, and it's good at that angle. So I'm gonna try one lower actually. I feel like I can get more stretch without slipping if I do one lower. So I'll try this, how it feels at the bottom there without slipping. Yeah, that's even better. So I'm gonna go with that. I'll go with something light. I'll just put 40 kilos on, because 20 kilo dumbbells either side would be a light one for me at this stage. So we'll try this as set one. Yeah, that's okay. I think while I'm here, it'd be worth trying it unilaterally as well. So I'm going to put about half that weight on, well, just over half that one. No, let's go half. Let's be steady with it. I'm going to try it one-handed, because I feel like my right arm was taking over there. I'm going to try it each hand separately. And as always with the unilateral stuff, I'll do the weaker side first, or the smaller side first. because you're doing kind of 2 sets instead of 1. You're going to be overall more out of breath fatigued by the second set, so you want to put priority on the first part of the set, the weaker side, work on your weak points in that way. So for me that means starting with my left arm and probably stabilise myself a little bit more here with the right. Another thing I sometimes do is I don't exceed the reps that I got on the weaker arm with the stronger arm, even if I could have done, to allow that evening out to take place over weeks and months. But while I'm here, instead of doing 2 sets, I'm going to have a dabble a little bit more because I feel like going even lower on the seat. What I'm lacking in this exercise, you see, is like the full stretch at the bottom, and I got more of that by lowering the seat and getting more locked in. So I'm gonna try that just with both arms together to start with. Just see how far that's going down, because you see I was hitting the weight stack about here before, but it's not really fully stretched my biceps. Now it kind of is. If I remember to lean my body back as well, that's gonna be more than 1. So I'm not gonna exhaust myself there if I'm tinkering with it. I'm gonna go back to that higher weight and go in arms together. But already this one would feel better for me than the preacher curl machine by Hammer Strength. But the Hammer Strength machine that I do like for arms is the MTS biceps curl, which I got just over there. So on the machine's front, that would still be up there for me. This one feels like a possible choice as well for my next set of programming, or what I'll put in and out of the rotation when I'm doing like full hardcore workouts for you lot again. Anyway, let's give it a go. Yeah, that'll be the one. So when you do that kind of fiddling about with a new machine for the first time, you do find what you like on the settings. You have to make a mental note of that. Yeah, what that is 1 hole left poking out the top. So that probably means 2 settings left for going lower. But all I need to remember is that there's going to be 1 hole I can see on the seat. On the seat itself. It goes into the little base there. I'm now going to tackle the quads with a leg extension machine. I want to work quads in isolation because I actually don't want to touch my hamstrings and calves, but that's beside the point at this point. The hamstrings there, because they're still very achy after the treatment I had done and put in the video yesterday with Ruta muscle recovery. They're really aching in the hamstrings now, so I'm going to leave those well alone. Work quads in isolation with the leg extension, which should be kind of the main real isolation for quads, to be honest. All those other compound exercises you do, they can put more emphasis on the quads, but they don't really take out the glutes and hamstrings and that. Like hack squats would be emphasis on quads, but not really a quads isolation. Same with all the leg press with the foot positions you do. You can add more emphasis to the quads, but hamstrings playing a role. This is pretty much the only exercise that's standard that would be isolating the quads and not using the hamstrings at all, really. So Again, I'm using it as the opportunity to try something new because I'm using the Techno Gym piece. I did have a little go on a Life Fitness one, not the one next to me, but the one across the room, and found that I wasn't really getting so much stretch in the position that I was in the machine. So I'm going to give it a go with this one for a change. That's okay. It's still not an awful lot of stretch. I feel like one of the other machines suits me better. I usually like the Nitram one for leg extension. Feel like I get the most stretch with that. As without that, I've not really noticed it's done an awful lot for my quads doing leg extensions. So I've got most of the growth in my quads from hack squats, leg presses, and horizontal leg presses. So it's just finding the right version for me, but I like the Nitram one. Okay, that's sufficient rest. Go again. And that's bringing me to the end of the workout today. So I'm just finishing up on a little bit of cardio because it's good for you, obviously. But I prefer the cardio outdoors, not doing something more intense, as you know, but kind of feeling a bit low energy for something too intense. I was thinking about the Tabata again, but I think I'm going to be better to do that once I am fed again, get the 4 rounds in there properly. So I'm just finishing up on the bike while I'm up here in Bodyworks, and I just had the pleasure of bumping into a couple of my subscribers, or one of my subscribers and one of his friends. So shout out to Matthew and Max. Thanks for the support, thanks for following the channel. Glad you enjoy the content, and do let me know if you have any questions or need any further help. I'm always responding to all of that, keeping in touch with all of you there. Matthew was mentioning about his contests and contest prep and potentially competing with PCA again next year, so we're having a good old chat about strategies for when you compete and periods of training throughout the year. So yeah, there's a social side to this lifestyle as well. It can potentially be a very lonely pursuit doing bodybuilding, especially competitively, but actually if you're doing it competitively, you still make a lot of friends because there's all these events that you go to and a clique of people that you end up meeting again and again at contests. And if you're doing it, especially if you're doing it lifestyle and not doing the competitions, you're gonna, perhaps be a little bit more casual about things and knock around the gym and make friends through it. So for me, it's been like a really supportive community and a good way of meeting people, and I've done more and more of that as I've increased the channel, because it's another way of people being able to interact with me, and I'm really grateful for all of that. I've really enjoyed it more than I expected to, and I've had another good day of it in spite of being almost 4 full days of not eating now. How long have we got left? 2. I've got 6 hours left until I can eat, so make the challenge, fulfill the challenge. So I'm feeling very positive about things, and the only thing that's gone wrong today is I did wonder whether that first segment of the video was too noisy on the music. So I may end up talking about autophagy all over again another day. But that was a little bit of an introduction to how that works. I'm going to proceed here on the bike, which isn't too interesting for you, and you'll see me in a second with how I'm looking like now that I've lost all this weight from fasting. Here we go then, guys, what I'm looking like after this extreme reset. So I think it's significantly different, but I'll have to compare when I look at this. So when I did the video before, I had to remember what I did on that £300 check-in, but it's basically standing relaxed. Ooh. Sort of feel like I can see my abs like for the first time in a while, you know, and a little bit the obliques, and can actually do a vacuum because the stomach distension is gone, you know, like. I'm trying to make this something I can compare later, so it's in the same spot with the same lighting, same camera, but I may have got the camera positioning slightly different. But yeah, lost a significant amount of weight doing this. Maybe I'll do the pictures side by side for Instagram one day. But basically, I lost about 4 inches off the waist. Lost 1.5 inches off the chest, but a lot of that will be like muscle fullness. I'm quite shrunk down, like up top. Arms measure the same, but it was quite a bit of weight loss there. In fact, I could step on the scale and see exactly what I am right now. $268. So 32 pounds in 2 weeks. From a week of diet break, 3 days carnivore and 4 days water fasting. But on the measurements, I'm not concerned about excessive muscle loss. This has been like a really good tidy up here. And it'll set me up for future progress. So I'm very much looking forward to breaking my fast. One last one. And time to get cooking. After that check-in, and after 4 days of not eating, it's high time to get cooking. So I thought I'd talk you through this whole meal. What I've got planned is a mixed grill. So I'm going to talk you through the whole meal prep, the cookery lesson here. And all I've done is set things up ready to start properly repairing. So you'll see the order that I do this in. I know for some of you not interested in cookery, but I have actually noticed that working with guys, talking to guys, some people don't really know how to deal with that much whole food and making your own meals, and think it's going to be costly because you're then going out for stuff. So by all means skip through this, like just to the end if you're not interested in the cookery bit. But for some people, this is what they need. So I'm going to put the whole method in, and this mixed grill is going to be 3 eggs, they're the Burford Browns. It's going to be a little bit of chicken liver. It's going to be a pork loin steak, a lamb rump steak, a beef ribeye steak, and a couple of caramelized red onion sausages, and chopped up mushrooms. So basically all I've done is lay these out so there's a bit of air gets them first, and I put the beef tallow in all the pots and pans I'm going to be using, just so that's ready to go. Basically the stuff that's going to take the longest to cook will be the peppers, the sausages and the steaks. So those will go on first. So I don't want to overdo the steaks, so I'm not going to put them on before I start chopping up vegetables. So I've got my mushrooms to chop up here, and a bell pepper. Let's just give them a quick rinse. And basically the pepper's going to take much longer to cook than the mushrooms. Everything's getting fried here. So I've got 3 on the go, and the eggs are going to be the quickest, so those will go on last. But basically, I just need to chop all of this up quite fine so that it's ready to go on first. Then it'll be the steaks on, and then it'll be judging how quickly everything's cooking to decide what to put on next and in what order, how quickly, from experience. But you'll sort of see what I'm checking for here if the cookery's not your strong point. Now, I do advise with the whole bodybuilding, and especially when bulking, that you just find meal prep ways that don't involve you having to do all of this faff and keep an eye on your food as you're going, because day after day after day, in the quantities we're talking about, it's just going to become unmanageable, and then the whole thing is going to be difficult to follow, cause resentment. This is just for occasionally, and this is a very special occasion for me, breaking a fast. It's something, if you haven't done it before, the fasting, the first meal back in is absolutely incredible. So I intend to really make the most of it here. So I'm getting well prepared. And I don't mind spending the extra time because it's really going to be worth it on this occasion. And this is not a meal plan meal, it's just a selection of foods that do happen to be awesome for bodybuilding. I'd say especially the steak, the liver, and the eggs would be the premium bodybuilding foods in this get up here. And because it's a special occasion, I went deluxe. Like normally I don't buy like the most expensive, but I've gone Sainsbury's Taste the Difference range here and organic, and looked for the longest dates on all the packs that I bought. So hopefully that'll mean that they're the freshest, so that I can have the most luxurious meal back in. And, you know, get a good selection of things to put in a cookery piece, because when people want meal ideas and meal prep, this can sit in the playlist that has all the meal preps as well. So I can get the hob. They've all got their beef tallow in ready to melt down, so I can get the hob. Oh, I don't like these induction hobs. I put it on high just to get the tallow melted as quickly as possible, not be standing around too long. And then in go the peppers first. But because the steak and the sausages are going to follow, you can put them all in one pan. You don't need like a separate pan for everything, but you need one or two big ones if you're attempting a big mixed grill like this. So the big one is going to be all the meat. All the veggies are going to be on the far one, and then just finish off quickly in the eggs in the one that I know and love for the eggs. So I will spread the tallow around the bottom of the pan there. Now I can turn it down a touch, and in go the peppers. And get this fired up for the sausages. Little tip with the sausages, just like they cook through you like better if you poke some holes in them. So I get a fork and poke some holes in each side, but I'm only putting 2 on, so with all the leftovers from this, I'm going to be able to enjoy this meal a bunch of times. Get the extractor going as well, because that's getting smokier than I anticipated. And spread the tallow around the next one. And sausages first. But everything's basically lined up, ready to go in the order that it goes on, so those can go on there. I'm sure I'm going to have room in this, but I'll show you what's coming next. So that'll be the ribeye. That'll be the lamb chop with 2 spare. The chicken liver, that's just in little chunks. I'm only going to use a little bit of that because it's not the tastiest as the rest of the stuff. And the pork loin steak is waiting there, again with spares to do something similar to this tomorrow, all being well. Yeah, I don't focus my plans on meals that I've got to stand around for 15 minutes dealing with, because to not burn things on a meal like this, you're going to have to be constantly keeping an eye on it and turning things. So I've turned the sausages already, and I think they're going to take, if I put them in the middle, they'll go a bit quicker. They're going to take a lot longer than the steaks, I think, so they've got to sit there on their own. These peppers, like, are going to get burnt if they don't go down a bit, so put them down while we're waiting on these sausages going. I think it might actually be a good idea to get some more tallow. No, I got it out. I didn't have it out. Get a little bit more in there so it don't burn the bottom of the peppers, which is starting to happen already. There we go. So that was also what was causing the smoke, it seems. Don't usually bother with vegetables. The sausages turn again. Yeah, now we can start putting on other bits. Set in with this. There's going to be a lot of smoke here, it seems. In with all the steaks. But actually, you've got to judge how thick they are. So that'll be the thickest, so it's going to take the longest. So then I'm going to put this lamb one and the pork one on after that. And the only other thing I've got to do preparatory for the whole thing is whisk up the eggs, because I'm doing them scrambled. So 3 eggs get cracked into here. These are the awesome, perfect brown ones. They are the tastiest in my opinion. Well, the tastiest that you'll find in a supermarket. When you get into all this food, it is worth going to farmers markets and down to the meat market and things like that. So I'm lucky to have that in London. I think if you've never been down to Smithfield, that's a really good adventure. It'd be nice to do a video showing and explaining that, but I think they might be a bit wary about someone filming down there, so I'm not sure if I can do that. So they get like all these protesters go down, you know, these people that think that cow farts are going to make Armageddon come and all this sort of thing. They tend to wash up down there, so I don't think I want to be like confused. I mean, I probably wouldn't be confused with like the vegan lot that turn up protesting down there, but I think if I rocked up with my camera, I'll be viewed suspiciously, to say the least. So it might not be the easiest video to make, but it's something that I did want to make if possible, because that is excellent food. The only downside to it is that you've got to be up really early in the morning. It's sort of something, don't quote me on this, it's something like 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. or something like that, so it's got to be a before work expedition, or staying up really late and off the next day to make it manageable. So I don't do it too often, but when I do it, I try and make the big savings, and I try to buy as much as possible and figure out how much I can fit in a chest freezer, and then cut it all up and bag it in separate bags that way. But you're looking at huge savings, because you're paying sort of £9 per kilo, £10 per kilo on some of the nicer cuts of beef, say like sirloin, but then you're paying like £5.50 perhaps on the cheaper cuts of beef, like your brisket and chuck. So if you're in London, check it out. There, that's the mushrooms gone in the vegetable pan with the bell pepper. And that means that there's the thinnest of the steaks, the pork one, to go on next, which means I can turn the lamb one, and then it'll all shrink down and there'll be room just to finish off with the chicken livers, and about that time I'll be coming in with the eggs to do the scrambled egg there. Yeah, and you're looking for it round. I mean, you can't do it as precision as when you're cooking a steak on its own with the timings, because the steak on its own I'd do a minute or so like each side, and then I'd turn it to half heat and flip again. But I've got to do it for 3 of different types, different thicknesses here, so that I can't say that on a mixed grill I'll get each of my choices done to perfection, but I'm doing my best. This is how it's looking. That looks awesome, right? I hope the sizzling effects are making you hungry, because they certainly are me after 4 days of abstaining from all foods. Turn up the veggies and the mushrooms, don't catch up. I just have to keep an eye on the sausages here. They've got a little bit burnt on the side, so I need to turn them. They've done one of each side, but it's kind of the bits in between of the sides. I'm just going to reposition now. There's no need to be getting this fired up for the eggs yet, because it'll be another 5 or 6 minutes, I think, on what we've got going on so far. This is probably going to struggle to fit on the plate. Some people with their approach to breaking a fast say just have something small and something soft and go careful with it, but because the experience is so nice, I like to make a big meal when I break a fast, and there's nothing forcing me to eat it all. I can always eat till I'm satiated and then put the rest away and look forward to it yet again. So I'm not going to force feed. I'm going to just make sure that I make the most of the experience, because you don't do these fasts too often, and most of us, and if you haven't done it before, you won't know just how brilliant the first meal back is. It's one of the nicest experiences you'll have. That's no exaggeration. It really is, and experiencing flavour again when it seems all a novelty to you, it's amazing. And I like to just make the most of that, so I don't do just a mini meal. I really get going. Yeah, just making sure I don't overdo it one side on the ribeye, because it's not gone down. Normally, if I was doing the ribeye on its own, making the best of it, I'd have gone down to half heat. It's really the pork that you want cooked through. Obviously, you'd have like beef rare, but pork and chicken and things you want fully cooked through. So I'm going to assess the situation. You can't just do it by time, you have to take a look. So unless you're doing exactly the same thing with the same utensils and the same cut of steak on the same place, you're probably not going to be able to do it by time. So the beef, the ribeye, is already cooked to like a medium kind of standard. And the lamb, taking a look here, is not far behind. So that really is almost done. And just keep the sausages rolling round so that they're cooked evenly, not overdone and burnt like they were getting at the beginning. And now it's time to warm up. It's time to warm up the third bowl, and I can be getting the eggs done. So with the eggs, you really don't want to overdo it, otherwise they're not tasty. They lose moisture. So you want to get it heated up enough to melt the tallow, or it won't be so much of an issue if you're using olive oil, say, which would be the next best thing in my opinion. And then you want to turn it to, half heat, or possibly a tiny bit more than that when you first put them on, and keep them moving. And then before they're ready, turn it down or turn it off and remove the thing, because it stays hot and stays cooking them, and you want to keep them moist and not overdoing them. So this is coming along so nicely that I can finish off with the little chunks of chicken liver that I got. Those can just go in the side where there's just about space there. Yeah, that's sorted. I'll wash my hands. I think this will be ready in 2 minutes from now. Just got to make sure I don't I might even bring the beef and the lamb off while this stuff finishes with the sausages and the pork, and then I would know my timings a little bit more precisely for this exact combination of foods in this cooking method. But yeah, things are very close to done. Eggs going on. Turn it down. The only thing that's playing catch up right now is those chicken. The eggs really need to come right down. That's cooking very quickly with just 3 of them, which is less than my usual, so that can actually come off now. It's done it extremely quickly. I start removing things and it will just be finishing up on the chicken liver, catching up, and the sausages which needed turning a lot to not overdo. So this is how I remove it, like before it's done. That will go straight on. Ribeye next. That was basically done to medium, don't want to overdo. Lamb next. The pork needs to be cooked through, so I'll just flip it again. Then we're going to turn the chicken liver. I would say if you've never eaten liver before or you're not into organ meats, chicken liver's probably the most palatable. Vegetables done. That can come off. Yeah, we're struggling with the plate. This is going to be so good. My mouth is watering. I've been looking forward to this for all week basically. I've made the challenge and earned it. That's that done. Again, with these last bits, I'm going to just check that the sausage is definitely cooked through. I don't want the pork raw. Yeah, they're cooked through. They're good. I'll check that the pork loin steak's cooked through. Yeah, done. Whoa, deploy these on the plate here. This is the most I'm going to enjoy a meal all year probably, unless I find reason to do this process again. There really is nothing like how it feels having your first meal back after fasting for a significant period of time. I cannot explain just what it's like if you've never done it before. You would have to experience it for yourself. Beautiful. I'm very proud of that. Let's have a look. Let's have a look what we're dealing with here. How's that? So, sausages, lamb, the mushroom and the pepper, the pork loin steak, the chicken liver, and the scrambled egg, the deluxe one, and the beautiful big ribeye. That's the first meal back. That's going to be so good. I can't wait. And I'm just about ready to tuck in, but I'm not going to dive in because I like to take a moment to just remember how lucky I am to be able to have this assortment of food from all over the place, and how we take food for granted, and what that makes you feel differently about all of that when you've been fasting for a while. It is something that's good for your mind as well, I think, and good for remembering the purpose of food and being grateful for what you have. So I am really looking forward to this, and just taking a moment to, think about how much I am going to enjoy it and how lucky I am. And I really appreciate you as well following along with the videos. So Thanks for watching what I've been up to this week. I hope it's been interesting, showing an extreme result there, but for me the true result won't be until later on in the year. This is preparatory to that, but a useful opportunity to show just what fasting and carnivore diet can do in the short term. So here it is once again. I did make sure to get the perfect picture of it for perhaps putting on my story on Instagram. If you're not on my Instagram and need to speak to me directly, it's Physique Philosopher, and I'm going to be posting on there a little bit more, but it's YouTube that I really enjoy, mainly because of your comments and engagement. It's much more involved making the long videos, and I've really appreciated that kind of feedback and engagement that I've had from all of you. So thanks again. I'm feeling very thankful overall at this point, and I'll catch up with you well fed tomorrow. Cheers.